We're so grateful that you've stayed with us. We see a lot of you following our live coverage of what is happening at the State House. But before we go back there, before we talk education and return to State House as we bid our farewells to Christian Achu, let's have something that is also very topical to talk about. It's a book we're going to be reviewing this morning with the author Nana Ewusiwa Fynn, and it is so topical, its subject area. My home, my hell. Should I stay or should I go? Let me first of all welcome Nana Fynn on board. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I am supposing it is morning where you are.
Yes, it's just gone past 8.
Great. Just to set the tone for the conversation, I'll read the blurb of your book. Within 3 weeks of the 2020 UK pandemic lockdown, an unprecedented number of women, 16, were reported to have died. This figure does not take into account unreported deaths. Domestic violence is a global crisis which cannot be ignored. My Home, My Hell is an insightful read for anyone in a relationship, or not only the victims of domestic violence and abuse. In her straightforward writing style, Nana explores relationships and catalogues the kinds of abuse that can manifest within these circumstances. She highlights the warning signs of abusive relationships and marriages, and through the lens of real examples, she encourages the reader to reflect on their own lived experiences. By offering practical advice on how to safely exit a toxic relationship, she hopes that readers within such situations will be motivated to make informed choices and avoid becoming a statistic. Now you, Nana, you've been a social worker, you have experience for some 18 years. What triggered the thought of putting together this book, My Home, My Hell? Should I stay or should I go?
Okay. I mean, social work is it deals with social issues, and we come across a lot of domestic violence in our work. And I have seen the increasing rise of domestic violence over the years. So it was only a matter of time that I would actually pen my thoughts on paper. But then it actually came to the fore during the lockdown when I saw a number of referrals coming forward, both young and married couples, young people in relationships, that I realized that, it's about time people became more aware of the relationships they were getting into, which would lead on to marriage. And therefore, they need to sort of go into something more equipped than I felt they were going in for. And also for people to be very much aware of the signs and developing signs of abuse. They needed to recognize what abuse actually was. So I just thought, this is not going to be an educative, it's going to be an informative book, but it's not going to be sort of a textbook where I'm quoting literature and drawing from research and stuff like that. This was going to be practical advice to my fellow human beings, actually.
And when you read the prelude, in fact, page XIII, that is page 8 of the prelude, you mentioned certain statistics that stunned me. So in the UK, the statistics showed that on average, 2 women were killed per week, while 30 women were killed per year on the back of domestic violence, domestic abuse. That would add up to about 104, as you put it, or 106 women put side by side with 30 men per year. That's about a third of the population. You are in this space. Break it down for us, because I feel this is also very reflective of our own situation nationally.
Okay. I mean, this is 2 to 3. I would say 2 to 3. We can never really be sure of the reported figures because, as I said to you, these are the reported statistics. There are so many that don't come to light at all and play out in various forms.
Right.
But then for the 30% of men who are killed in a year, it's not a true reflection, because the men would rarely come forward to own up to abuse or being abused.
Yeah.
So I feel that comparative, it's only a matter of time. When people become more aware, the men would now come out and speak up, because women would talk, women would say, I'm being abused. Female friends will pick it up, but the men would not.
Right. So that reminds me actually of a story that you put in here at the start of your social work career, where a man came in with what you describe as a midget-like wife, a diminutive wife. And he was complaining about the fact that his wife was abusing him. You say that your reactions were a bit of a smirk and all of that, but there's more to it because a lot of men also get abused. Just tell us a bit about that.
You know, I look, that's one of the things I reflect upon all the time and just realize how I disempowered that man. That was my opportunity to have been more curious, to have probed, to have ascertained actually what was going on. But rather, I looked at the size of the woman. In my sort of narrow-minded thoughts, I'm thinking, no, this woman can't do much to you. Is he really sure he's telling me the truth? I sort of believe the lady's story because that's what, at the time, maybe based on social awareness on my path or whatever, I just presumed that, look, this lady was not going to be in a position to do that. But on hindsight and upon reflection, with what I know now, if a man sort of opens up in this way, I'm sure he's really going to open up a can of worms because I'm really going to dig deep and explore and support the family. So it's been a very steep learning curve,
Right.
but a curve that I'm so pleased I've been able to put it in a book now and acknowledge what I did.
I'll be asking you shortly what the difference is between domestic abuse and domestic violence. I didn't know until I read your book. But I'd like to first read from page 5. Marriages and especially friendships need to be enjoyed and not endured. And when you begin to feel anything otherwise, you must understand that something is not right. Begin to question yourself and picture yourself enduring this for a lifetime. Is it something you can cope with or bear? So tell us, what is that key difference between domestic violence and domestic abuse? What are the different shades of them?
Okay. Domestic violence, it's sort of more or less instantaneous. It's the violence that happens in a momentary situation.
Okay.
Whereby someone pushes someone, the person hits the head against the door or radiator and ends up dying or getting injured. That's the level of violence you have meted out to someone. Domestic abuse is usually the consistent level of abuse, which sometimes is so subtle, you don't even pick it up as abuse. For instance, you're living with someone. The person is always making little demands of financial contributions of you here and there. You don't take it as a big deal. And then maybe you realize, oh, he's bought a plot of land somewhere without even your knowledge.
Yeah.
He has systematically abused you, extorted money from you without you knowing. And in a relationship, you need to be open and honest. So abuse is sort of the consistent, it's not predictable all the time, but it's there. And for some people, they see it as he's being attentive or she's being attentive. Oh, this is love, or it will change. But then you realize that that is abuse. The day you stand up for yourself, you see the violence in the partner.
Right. I also read a story about a woman who had been violently assaulted, broken nose, bruises all over her face and all of that. It took her child to actually alert the authorities that that was what was happening. She swore heaven and earth that she had fallen and all those stories. And we hear them because they are trying to defend or protect their loved ones. But do share with us some of the myths. Look, it is normal for abuse to occur in arguments. You sometimes even hear women tell you that. I've had a woman tell me that before, that, oh, it's normal for her partner to, violently treat her. Domestic abuse happens only to a certain type of woman. Women cannot accuse men. Leaving is a choice and all of that. All of these are myths. Walk us through some of them, even as we wrap up. And how difficult is it or easy is it for people to stay? Because sometimes we think leaving is a choice. You should just be able to up and leave. Why is it not such a choice?
Okay, so I'll use just one example of the myth where it is sort of, there's the myth that women should always be the main carers of children, and therefore when women come up with a story of domestic abuse, they should be believed because they are telling the truth. It's not always the case. And women would also use abuse or use the children as sort of weapons against the fathers,
right,
and preventing the children from having otherwise a very beautiful relationship and maybe even the best of both worlds. So there are lots of myths surrounding domestic violence, but to be able to curb this myth is all about communication and being confident in yourself to speak out. and seek the right support. Relationship, coming to the second question, relationship is about commitment. People feel they get committed into a relationship. See, for instance, someone who has been in a long-term relationship with someone, and then suddenly realizes all the forms of abuse and is thinking, I've wasted so many years. Why should I get out now? Why should I move out for the next person? I've endured it for so long, even though I've not enjoyed it, but I'm going to maintain it. Sometimes you have family who would say, stay in there because, look, it's happened to us before and we survived. Look at me.
Rationalize it.
I am. Yes. You have people who just love the title of MRS. I need to be a Mrs. It puts me on a social status. Some people's career is based on the fact that they are supposed to be married. You know,
but can you blame them, especially in our part of the world? If you are not married, you're not bearing children, it comes with a certain stigma. Everybody wants to be a Mrs. It also is the social, it's maybe acculturation here. That's part of the problem, isn't it?
It's part of the problem, but you have to look at the bigger picture. Bringing a child and raising a child in an abusive relationship, you have no idea the magnitude on the child's life, which would go on and impact other people as they grow up. And then it becomes a cycle because they are going to enact it in their marriages as well. And it goes both ways. They either exude anger or they are going to be sort of very timid. And children are going to be looking on. Children are going to observe this. And these are some of the children who express it in anger on the playgrounds. Some of the children who end up being bullied or the bullies in the playground. You want to raise confident, happy children. You don't want to raise timid children at all.
So to wrap the conversation, this book, 133-page book, is one that I would proffer for everybody. I didn't even know this book existed until it was proffered for me, and we're discussing it today. And I think a lot of us need this. My home, my hell. Should I stay or should I go? It's not just the COVID lockdown. I read a lot across the world about how it exposed abuse and violence in relationships. But this was a really refreshing, thought-provoking, piece that you put together, the stories you shared. And these are real lived experiences that you shared of about 10 women that, you interacted with. Brilliant work. Yeah. But before you go, where can people, all of us, ordinary Ghanaians, grab copies of this book? Just give us some details about that. Is there a website, for example? Where can they get access?
They'll get it from Book Notes.
Book Nook, okay.
Book Nook. Right. So you go onto Book Notes and then you'll be able to order your copies from there. For those who are outside or come outside, travel out and want to buy it, it's on Amazon. In America, it's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble as well.
Okay, so it's more virtual. That is how people can get copies, right?
Yes, more virtual. But then I have some copies. In Ghana, I want to limit it to Book Notes because I'm not here now. So I'm not really negotiating with other bookstores. So I've sort of limited it to Book Notes because he was the one that I liaised with. Right. And I know he does a lot of not online, but delivers when you order in Africa. So it was the best choice.
To facilitate the process, though, especially as one who writes myself, I would proffer that maybe you get an agent, someone to, bridge the gap for you in Ghana with the bookshops. I don't want to mention names, but we know them so that you can have people very easily. Sometimes some people are lazy when it comes to the virtual bit. But Nana, we're so grateful for your time. Any final words for us very briefly before we go?
Don't stay with abuse. Don't live with abuse. Abuse obscures your life's potential. Right. Whatever you want to be in life, whoever you want to be in life, when you stay hitched with someone, make sure that your plans are progressive and not to reduce you to nothing. Mental health is rife, and so is abuse.
Thank you, Nana Ewusiwa Fynn, for joining us today to review your book, My Home, My Hell, Should I Stay or Should I Go? We look forward to the next ones that you'd be writing. And that is Nana Ewusiwa Fynn with that beautiful piece. It touched me, and I think it would touch you too if you got a copy. Well, stay with us. We're going to take a breather. When we return, we're going to be talking about education, the GET Fund to be specific. The National Union of Ghana Students, Africa Education Watch have been on that beat They say they don't want the resources to be uncapped. There are so many dynamics in there. Stay, and after that, we'll take you back to the State House where there'll be more action from Christian Achu's final farewell. Do stay. We'll be right back on the AM show.